Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America. Of course, you'll find us online at thisweekinamerica.us. Knowledge is the key to understanding, empowering independence and freedom to be the best a person can be. Well, our guest on This Week in America, author Patti Zona, knows that personally from her experience. Now, through her book, Little Cottage House, she wants everyone to be inspired to rise above the situation, to not be afraid to question, to challenge themselves as well as a broken system, to raise consciousness of those who have been a part of the downfall, and awaken the courage in themselves and to finally address and correct or restore for future generations. Step inside the author's Little Cottage House and get a glimpse of her journey, falling down, getting up, rising and overcoming the obstacles that life dealt her. Patti Zona back with us on the program. It's great to have Patti back with us talking about Little Cottage House. She also is the author of The Value of a Homemaker. We talked about that with Patti on the program as well. And I believe those interviews, past interviews, you'll find at our website, thisweekinamerica.us in the audio section. Also on video this time. Patti, welcome back to the program. It's been way too long. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I always love the message you have, and it's one of hope and keep on, and life will throw little unexpected things at us, as it did with you. And just a little bit of background before we start talking about the book, Little Cottage House. It would appear you had it all at one point. A very successful marriage, a lot of money coming in, very successful. And then everything changed for you, and you went through some really difficult times. Times, quite honestly, a lot of people would not have bounced back from. Talk briefly about that background and where you are today and this powerful message you share with people about get back up, dust yourself off, and get back in the game again.
Yes. Thank you.
And the phone is ringing, and that happens. Patti Zona, our guest on the program. The book we're talking about is called Little Cottage House. The book's available at Patti's website. That's Patti Zona, PATTIZONA.com. You'll find it as well as at Amazon. And if you go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, you can link on directly to Patti's website and get information not only on this book, but The Value of a Homemaker, which was her first book. So, Patti, I was just talking about briefly your background, because you went through some tough times. You experienced the highs of life and what success is like, and you experienced the lows of picking yourself back up again.
That's right. And I did experience all the best. And but what I realized was that sometimes money, all the money in the world, isn't going to bring you happiness. But not only that, sometimes it doesn't bring out the best in people. They get a sense of entitlement, and they feel that because they've made all this money, that they can do anything that they want. And actually, in our world, that's the truth. You have all the money, you can become anything. You can become president. And it shouldn't be about how much money you have. It should be about, it's about doing what is right for not just yourself, but for others. And you don't hurt people in the process of raising to that peak of success or acquiring. I mean, it's, there's other people involved. We are all here for a reason and purpose, and it's not just for ourselves. And we do have children, so we have to think of them. We have to think of our neighbors and society. When we had the collapse of the economy, it affected millions of people that had a good life, but were told to sell their house to the bank or to go bankrupt, just walk away from their home. And it was amazing. I was at a point where that could have happened to me, but I didn't want to be part of the problem. And I knew if I did that, I would be, because it's always the taxpayer that is affected. And the thing is that then I would be accommodating the banks and the big money people, and I didn't want to do that. So I stayed in my house, and I had to restore this house because I bought this little house for way too much money, and they didn't disclose the problems. I mean, it was a very difficult time.
Yes. Yeah, you said that you thought when you bought the little cottage house, it was a solution to your financial problems. This is going to work out fine. Didn't take you long to realize, and I think you described it as the worst thing that you could have done. And it could have been easy to walk away from it, and you stayed there.
If I would have stayed in my condo, it was guaranteed I was going to have a lot of expenses because of everything, the association dues and everything kept going up, and there were always major problems. But I also did miss having a yard. My daughter was having a baby, and so I wanted to be there for her. And so it was at a time when I had so much going on, but I wanted to be settled so I could help my daughter when she had her baby. And so I actually, 2 days after I moved in, that's when she had Vince. So it was busy times.
Well,
Not a whole lot of time to think and properly and read all the red print. But I only had a month to move, so there were a lot of factors. Things were not done in a way. It was more about, this was during the collapse of or people knew that the economy was going to collapse, and because there were signs, and so they were willing to just do anything that they could to sell their property as quickly as possible and make as much money as possible, and also the real estate agent. But this was the second time I had a serious problem with Edina Realty, and what happened to me shouldn't have happened, but because it did, I realized this was happening all over, across the board. It was always about the bottom line, making the money, profiting.
yes.
And guaranteeing their wealth.
And issues like that still continue. That's why this book is so powerful, because the message, what happened to you, happening to so many other people. And here's an opportunity to share your story, to inspire and to awaken other people that may be going through the same situation. The particular book we're talking about by Patti Zona, that's Zona, is Little Cottage House. Her first book, The Value of a Homemaker. Patti is Patti. Her website is pattizona.com. Books available, of course, at Amazon. You can link on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. I mentioned in the beginning, what's really important to you is knowledge, the importance of knowledge, and how that can really turn your life around or keep you going in the proper direction. Talk about that, because your books give us knowledge, don't they?
Well, they certainly do. I tried to do that because I did what I could to stay in my house, to keep my house. But I didn't have any choice, because Merrill Lynch had taken the sale of my house money without my knowledge, without my consent, and invested it. They didn't have to be held accountable. We bailed them out. The bank, the government made sure that they were protected, and but it was at the cost of myself and millions of other people. Meanwhile, when they were bailed out, they kept the money, and they became wealthier than ever, but they were supposed to give that money back. But that wasn't written in that contract. Because that wasn't written, they kept the money. I mean, it's like, people just don't, they think that because they have this money, they can do anything they want and they can keep it, even though it's actually stealing. It's stealing other people's money, stealing their lives, stealing their quality of life. People walked away from their homes. They sold their house to the banks. And, these institutions, these financial institutions, thought it was a big joke. And they became wealthier and made even larger rules. And because of the computer and everything was coming out so quickly, I mean, if you had a check that was coming into the bank, but it was like 1 minute late, you would be penalized.
Oh, yes.
So, I mean, it was like, and it wasn't a little bit of money. It was like, when people are struggling, that $30 or that $50, is a lot of money.
Yes.
But now we have a disconnect where people just they don't talk to each other like they used to because of the they're either on their iPhones or they don't want to. I mean, I call my friends, and if everybody in their family has an iPhone, and so when you pick up the phone, you're talking to that one person, but you're not talking to the other people in the house, which sometimes you like to do.
Exactly. That happens more often than you see people at a restaurant and they're all sitting out waiting to go in, and they're sitting at the table waiting for the meal to be served, and they're all on their little devices, probably not talking to each other, but playing games or talking to other people rather than communicating with people that are in the family. Patti Zona with us on the program talking about her book, Little Cottage House. The trailer for the book is interesting because you said you basically were in search of yourself, in search of myself. Talk about that. And after what you went through with the divorce and all of the problems and moving and buying the little cottage house and finding out it's not what you thought you were getting, finding out who you were and drawing on that strength to really turn your life around and help other people in the process.
Well, when I was divorced, when I was getting divorced, and Rick and my ex-husband took me to court for over 10 years, and they learned I couldn't get an attorney because once they learned who my husband was and his powerful attorney and U.S. Bank, then they were too fearful. They didn't want to get involved. So they would be either have a conflict of interest or be too busy. So I had to represent myself. When you represent yourself in court, I was very nervous about doing that, but I didn't have any choice. And I thought the judge would say, hey, this is ridiculous. If you don't have an attorney, and why are you taking her to court anyway? But they didn't. It was almost like a game, and money can do anything. And I know my ex-husband has regrets, but it's too late. The damage is done, and it's out there. And when we accept things, it sets precedents and standards. So, and I'm sorry, in the background, if you hear that siren, it's the beginning of the month. So they do this the first day of the new month.
Oh, I thought it was like a police chase or something going on in the neighborhood, and they were trying to capture somebody. That was okay, the first of the month, and it's the test out there. That's not a problem. We can hear you over that, and just an amazing story of what you went through. And one theme that you have in the books is injustice and never accepting the acts of injustice. Talk about that, because it's pretty easy by big, powerful people and conglomerates to beat us down, and we think we don't have any recourse. We do, don't we? We can bounce back from that. We can stand up for ourselves.
Oh, we definitely have to stand up for ourselves. We can't. I mean, this is what we listen to every month. Minnesota Nice. Okay. They're so careful about some things, but anyway, it's kind of overload. What was your question?
Well, I was talking about injustice and being able to, sometimes we think we have to accept that, especially when it's a major corporation we're dealing with, which is what you went through. You had major companies that were saying, really not saying anything, just sort of pushing you out of the way, and you wouldn't let them.
They were ignoring me, and I even talked to the people at the SEC in Washington and New York to tell them about my plight in life, and I gave them a good background. So the thing is, you can't give up, because if you do, it paves the way, makes it even easier for people to go ahead and do their things, and they really don't have a conscience. And I have to tell you, I bought my cottage house, and I ended up putting over $200,000 in my house to restore it. Money that I didn't have. It took me 8 years, but I did it with a little, whatever I could pay, I did. So it took me 8 years in order to do that. And I paid on the principal. But when I sold, about, something's going on that if you are a middle class or the average person, you don't have the same rights as a wealthy person. And I ended up doing everything that I was supposed to. I paid on the principal. I'd pay several $100s every month for almost 12 years. And I was so proud of myself, and occasionally, a few times, I'd put even $400 a month. And so that's quite a bit of money for
Yes.
12 years. And would you believe I sold my little cottage house for the same amount of money that I bought it for?
Ah, very good.
Well, no, 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 no.
Yes, I'm sorry. I phrased that wrong. Yes, yes. The same thing. So while everybody else is making money, you end up selling it for what you paid for it.
Well, right, and I didn't, but because what I'm saying is that even though I paid on the principal, who got that principal? You know?
Okay. I see exactly what you're saying. Yes. Allowing that to absorb for a second, it's like, well, wait a minute. Somebody came out of this real good.
Yes, so, yeah, someone came out very good. And the thing is I ended up getting very little money back, and yet Merrill Lynch had taken the sale of my house money. And so it's like I'm always, and what bothers me is they'll have these programs about why aren't people saving money for their future? But they never touch on why didn't these corporations or these banks or these financial institutions, why didn't they give that money back? Why do they have so much power and control? And of course, they're not going to address this. It's up to the people. It's up to people like myself. And well, actually everyone, because I cannot possibly do it all myself. And I can only tell of my experiences and say, you know, we do have children, and we do want them to have a future. And right now, all the necessities in life are the most expensive. I mean, education.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I mean, that's
totally
terrible what we've done to these young people. And medicines, or if you're on medicines, I don't take any medicines. I did get sick for a year, and they gave me these medicines. And I tell you, I got so sick that I thought I was going to die at one point. And the doctor said, you know, you can't. And he said, you can't don't even take these. I said, well, I don't. But that medicine did linger in my body for quite a while and caused a lot of problems. So we have to start listening to our body. We have to start listening to our mind. And, you know, just because someone has lots of money, hundreds of millions and billions, now there's billionaires and trillionaires. I've got such a funny face. I don't like to look at it. But
that looks fine. That looks fine. And I tell you, it's just the problems you talk about. You read either of your books, The Value of a Homemaker or Little Cottage House, and you're like, how could they do that to her? They not only have done it to you, but thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in the country are going through similar circumstances, and you're there with a message. It's a very powerful message that has to get out to these people. And I understand we only got about a minute or so left in the program. I knew it would go by quickly, and in fact it has. You're working on a third book too, I understand.
I am right. We're working on third book. Sorry, I can't talk. I'm working on a book, and it's going to be about the kind of a continuation of selling my little cottage house, because although I put so much time and money and energy into that book, I mean, into that house and my book.
Yes, both.
I ended up, it became a labor of love. And I'm the type of person, if things around me are in chaos, people are hurting, I can't be happy. I have to do what I can to guarantee that, you know, people can at least have a better life. I feel like that is maybe it's my calling, because I can do a lot of things. I also am going to do an art book, and I'm going to do a couple of children's
Very
books.
good. Very good.
So, yeah. Anyway, it's
You've got a lot on your plate that you've done with the two books. The first book by Patti is The Value of a Homemaker. Little Cottage House is what we're talking about now. Both books are currently available. You'll find those at Patti's website, Patti Zona. That's PattiZona.com. Also available at Amazon. You can link on directly to get information by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. We'll take you directly to Patti's website and get all of the information. So much good information there. It's a very powerful story of what you went through, able to bounce back, and the mission is to help other people. Patti, it is always a pleasure to have you on the program. Look forward to doing it again. Thank you so much for being with us on the program today.
Well, thank you, and you take care, and good luck with you and everything.
Thank you. Good luck with all the projects you've got going. You're going to be busy with the new books that you're working on, and looking forward to talking about those. Patti Zona, our guest on the program, Zona. Her books at our website, PattiZona.com. You can link on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. And we're back on today's program right after these messages.